Styles make fights. And recently, the Warriors have come across some styles that we know traditionally give them issues, right? Long, young, athletic teams. And then we're put in this Group C of the play-in tournament with all young, long, athletic teams. And all of a sudden, we find ourselves with a losing streak, and things are looking grim. Things are looking grim. I'm not gonna front. Hey, you came here to hear the truth. Well, we gonna talk the truth. That's all we do. The only thing I'm going to say about the Cleveland game is, listen, the Draymond ejection, did they open up Pandora's box? You can go back and look at the retaliation in this. Listen, I don't like to complain about the refereeing, but that incident and then last night's refereeing, all at Chase Center, there were calls that just make you wonder, right? You know there's going to be bad calls here, and you hope that it evens out, but sometimes when it's so blatant, you're like, dang, what's going on, right? But I'll say this. Draymond had tweeted out after the ejection, telling the fans like, hey, I got to be me. Like, what are y'all, how are y'all? To me, I defend Draymond in this instance. Look, there's been times where we all are frustrated with him getting out of pocket and, just being too emotional. But in that Cleveland game, we needed to ride his emotions. No one else had the juice. He was trying to fire up the team. And more times than not, we need that. We need that. So you gotta take the good with the bad. I don't blame Draymond. Draymond has been one of the bright spots of the early season, right? But let's talk about it. Let's talk about it, right? It boils down to Klay Thompson and Andrew Wiggins right now. Klay, what was he? 2 of 11 against Cleveland, 5 of 16 last night. And, we know he traditionally starts the season slow. And when you look at his mechanics, it's always the landing. I may have said this last video. Watch his landing. When he lands off balance, you can tell he doesn't really have his legs under him. But I was thinking about this. Like, I think I'm guilty of it. I don't know about you. Sometimes I think we forget what Klay's been through and forget that he shouldn't be the same guy, right? And some of you realize it. Maybe the problem is Klay doesn't realize he should be the same guy. But I don't think that this is as much on Klay. I think he's been pretty patient. He got a little crazy last night, right? He jacked that one from, but overall he's been patient. I think the lack of Wiggins and Chris Paul shooting the ball is forcing Klay to take some shots maybe we don't want him to, right? He's been pretty patient overall. And so Klay, history shows that he's gonna work it out. I think Andrew Wiggins is the more concerning issue. 6 points against his former team. You imagined we were gonna get some extra juice against the Wolves, and we needed it so badly, right? To me, it's interesting because, Hoopers, you know this to be true. I think this is just a general statement. When you're on a team, when you're in a game, and the offense is good, guys are hot, they're shooting right, that may cause you to second guess your shot. Like, should I take this? Like, he's hot, we're scoring. Let me not take this, right? But when the offense is cold and no one can score, at least for me, it feels like it gives me more of a green light. It's like, well, let me try to get something up. And for Andrew Wiggins to be this passive when we are struggling this bad offensively, I mean, it's too early to make changes, but we're starting to talk about it. Right? We're starting to talk about it. You read between the lines of the post-game comments. And what's with this Steve Kerr talking about, I wish I could find time for the young guys. I just wish I could find more time. No, don't wish, do it. Don't wish, do it. Right? I know it's a little early in the season for me to be coming at y'all with this type of energy, but it's frustrating, man. And contextually watching it, we feel outmatched. I know we had the lead at some point last night, but it never felt like we were going to win that game. And more importantly, we're asking far too much of Steph right now. 10 games in, how many times has he banged his knee and got up grimacing? And the other thing that I'll say about Draymond is, as good as he's been on the court as he works his way back into shape, right now, with the lack of offense, I don't think he can just take the keep him honest 3, like the 1 or 2 early threes, like, hey, I will shoot it. I think he's going to have to take 5 or 6 at times right now, the way that the offense isn't flowing. And as long as his feet are ready, if you watch, we talked about his rhythm, the quicker release. If he catches it stepping in or hopping, like with ready feet to get his rhythm, it looks good. But when he catches it flat-footed and he looks this way and he looks this way and then he takes it, the percentage gets cut in half, like it does with most shooters. So I think Draymond, at least at this point in the season, is going to have to look to be even more aggressive with that 3 ball. And so it's very clear we need more shot creation. Chris Paul at this point, it has a difficult time just getting his shot off, right? And then Wiggins isn't willing to shoot and Clay is cold. So does that come from more minutes from Moses Moody? Moody looks ready to go right now. He looks ready to go. Kuminga is getting to the line and finding ways to contribute. He's gone cold from the three-point range. I talked about the reasons why in today's breakdown. You can check that out. But I think we're all kind of waiting to see more of these rookies. Did you catch them in Santa Cruz for the opener? Dominant. Dominant, right? Both Trace Jackson and Podziemski. It was clear after the first half, like, hey, send them back to San Fran, right? They're too good for the G League. And, Podziemski, you look at his stats in high school, you look at his stats at Santa Clara, you don't put up those type of numbers without being able to put the ball in the basket. And I think with some experience and some encouragement to be aggressive, I think he could potentially be that shot creator we're looking for right now. But you got to give him an opportunity. And then you look at Trace and what he brings as a vertical spacer. Chris Paul and Draymond are dying for a lob threat. Wiggins can't even jump above the rim right now, right? And so you have these two guys sitting on the bench and they're struggling this bad. At what point do they say, okay, we got to try something different here? Is it going to take a 6-game losing streak here throughout this week? OKC ain't going to get any easier. They're long, young, and athletic. And so I'm curious to see how long they stick with this same rotation with these same results. I understand the cachet that these guys have. They're champions. But I think we owe it to Steph. You're putting too much strain on Steph. If anything, say, hey, these young guys got to play. Now, the other bit of context that we have to add is Cleveland, very good. Minnesota sitting atop the West right now. And you're seeing Anthony Edwards, become the superstar that he was projected to be. And the game has slowed down for him. You see him come up with pace, read the defense, and he's so explosive. He kind of waits for the defender to show their hand. He's like, what are you going to do? You're going to react? It's becoming too easy for him, right? And Karl Anthony Towns, I know he's struggled, but the way we played that last night, the strategy defensively, we were helpless because we were leaking everywhere defensively, but you can't help off Towns. Help off anybody else but Towns in that starting lineup, and letting him attack closeouts destroyed us. And I would say strategically, let Rudy Gobert cook. As dominant as he was in the paint defensively, bait the Wolves into feeding Rudy. That is the far lesser evil than coming off Towns or letting Ant dance on us, right? So I didn't like the strategy, and you expect them to come out a lot more prideful Tuesday night in the tournament game. Hopefully, we get a whistle that we should at home. I feel like we're owed a good refereeing game. I think we can all agree at that. But the truth of the matter is, Minnesota just looks like the better team right now. They are the better team right now until we have guys producing like we expect them to produce. And so it's too early to panic, obviously, but I'm here to just vent with y'all. I know y'all are frustrated. I'm frustrated as well. And I think the clock is ticking on the vets just getting guaranteed rotation minutes. I mean, everybody's going to play, but getting these guaranteed heavy minutes. I'm calling it this week. I think this week we're going to see the rookies get integrated into the rotation. And I think that the exciting thing is, why did they draft these two guys, right? They're not like, they didn't draft, what's the kid in Houston that everybody wanted, right? He didn't draft these high ceiling guys you got to wait on. They drafted guys ready to contribute right now. And so the door has been opened by the lack of production from the starters. Let them contribute right now. You see it, Underdog Fantasy. Use the code Alchemy. Get 100% bonus on your first deposit up to $100. Play along with me. Fade me. I've been winning. I ran one yesterday. I tweeted it out. It was Draymond 3-ball, Wiggins 4 rebounds, and Anthony Edwards 4 free throws. Yeah, I'm playing it smart today. My picks, not a lot of games. I've got Josh Hart higher than 2 fouls because Boston and all those guards and wings and how aggressive he is. I like that, right? And then Nikola Vucevic against the Bucks higher than 1.5 made threes. I think with the Bucks' big front line, they're going to dare him to take them. He's been taking more and more. Those are my picks for today. Again, use the code, support the channel. That's all I got for y'all for now as far as this 3-game losing streak. And, again, I don't want to panic about the situation. It's too early for all that. I am optimistic about the answers on the roster in the youth and what they've looked like. I'm not optimistic we're going to figure it out this week. It's a 3-game losing streak. You got Minnesota again and then back-to-backs with OKC. There's a real potential that this turns into a 5 or 6 game losing streak, especially if Kerr isn't willing to change things up. But hey, maybe it's going to take a 5 or 6 game losing streak for Kerr to actually make some changes and infuse some youth and athleticism, because I think they're going to help. As always, hit that like, share, and subscribe. I'm out, y'all.